If people want that, yeah. I'll just tag them and then leave. Here we go. Send now. Sucks to suck, guys. Anyway, no, not that. I want... We'll take this. Just fucking tag everyone and then leave. Why is someone attempting to establish communication with me on my own server? Why would they do that? Damn it, why would you ever do that? The timeless beauty of pre-rendered graphics. I love pre-rendered graphics. So I've been, you know, I showed these things on... you know, let's find some random area in Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII, Nibelheim. You know what? Nibelheim works. Like, there is something about this... about this way of doing graphics that just... Oh, and that fucking music. That is just not replicated today. It's so rare to see a game that looks like this. Now, there are games that do exist. Hold on, explain what pre-rendered graphics is and why it looks like that. So, okay. In Final Fantasy VII, these aren't... Like, these background graphics aren't being... These aren't, like, real-world game objects, right? Like, the PS1 cannot have a game that looks this good. Obviously, you know, for nowadays, not great, but, like, the PS1 cannot actually have a game rendered this well. Like, this... All of these... Like, everything you're seeing is basically just an image. It's an image with fancy placement of colliders. When you say pre-rendered graphics, you mean the image gets rendered in advance and then pasted on top of a polygonal shape. Yeah, basically. So, you render everything... It's like a video game cinematic, right? Like, video game cinematics for older games like this are not done in-engine, or at least not done in-engine during gameplay. They are rendered beforehand, and then it's basically a video file. The same idea is true here, where these are not graphics being done in-engine. They are created beforehand, and then they are sort of just placed into the game. And it's basically just using the... The reason why it was done is you have a lot of additional space thanks to it being on a CD, right? CDs had a lot more space than what you saw with game cartridges. So you had devs, like with Final Fantasy VII here, making use of that space. So it's like painting a cube with an image. I guess that's a fair way to look at it, yeah. Whereas, in this game, the only 3D objects here, they're really obvious when you notice them. Like Cloud, the key, anything you interact with, those are generally going to be 3D objects. But any of the backgrounds, those are going to be just created beforehand. And it allows you to have really, really beautiful shots that otherwise, like, this would not be possible to render on a PS1. Right? Like, if you were doing this in-engine, you could not do so. Anyway, it's not the only game that uses it. Here are some other ones.
When I look back at the PC games of the late 90s and early 2000s, there's a distinct visual style that I believe truly stands the test of time. It's when the game employs pre-rendered graphics paired with an isometric perspective. Curious about what that looks like? Here, let me show you.
Like, this is a game that is 24 years old. Right, like, these are games where they look so much... Like, look at this. 24-year-old game. But they worked around the limitations that existed at the time and found ways to make the games look so much better than would be possible to actually do. All of the, I don't know, I think 8... Does 8 do it? Yeah, no, 8 does. 7 and 9 definitely don't. I'm pretty sure 8 uses pre-rendered back graphics. 6 is obviously, Final Fantasy 6 is obviously pixel, and then 10 is full 3D. Also, pre-renders are much easier to upscale and remaster than real-time graphics. Yes, so there actually is a let me just see if I can find it. FF9 remaster project. I don't remember what it's called. No, not the UE5 remake. Is this it? Yeah. So this is FF9. This is how it originally looks. And basically they're going through with like AI upscaling and various other techniques to make the games like also it's also doing wides. So here's the other thing with 9. For some reason, pretty much all the art in the game supports widescreen. Even though the game was never actually rendered in widescreen. So like they've just you have them also expanding that out as well. Like, look at that. It might seem kind of subtle on the stream, but it is so much better. Oh, this one. Okay, maybe the other one. There was another one which was doing a lot of AI upscaling. Maybe this one is hand-drawn. Or maybe it's a mix. Also, changing the font there is probably a good idea as well. Yeah, this font is vastly better. But yeah, these graphics stand the test of time and are way easier to improve as well. Anyway, back to the video. Sims, oh man. What? 98! This is a game from 1998. And I get why there was this shift, right? Like, developers really wanted to start using full 3D. I get it. Full 3D is super cool. But there is something about this time, there's something about this art style that you did lose for such a long time.
Is it just me, or do these games look just as beautiful as they did over 20 years ago?
Yep.
The rich details, the handcrafted feel and level of cohesion all culminate into one of my favorite aesthetics of that did this style come from, you might add.
Bring back Diablo 1 and 2 feels. Yeah, good luck with Blizzard. You're gonna have to wait for an indie game dev to do that. You're not ever getting that back from Blizzard.
Well, allow me to explain. Back in the late 90s, real-time 3D graphics were still in its infancy. These early games were usually pixelated, lacked details and suffered low frame rates. Rendering complex scenes in real time requires a lot of processing power and memory, which many computers at the time simply didn't have.
Again, it goes back to what I've said so many times. Limitation breeds creativity. You couldn't have a 100 gigabyte game made in UE5 back in 1996. You had to work with what you had. And devs found ways to make games look absolutely amazing. Now, don't get me wrong. There is definitely a place for, like, early Quake and early Unreal Tournament, Doom, things like that. And that is, like, such a pinnacle point and such a... No, maybe not pinnacle. Such a important transition within gaming. But at the same time, we've kind of lost it in many ways.
To achieve a higher level of fidelity, developers thought of a solution. They'd create highly detailed environments, characters and objects. Then
the other thing is a lot of these really beautiful games, the artist studied paintings, right? Like, let me just show you the shot the shot from FF7 I posted the other day. Let me see. Media, where is it? Here we go. Here it is. This is a shot from FF7. This is a perfectly crafted shot to bring your attention towards the light. There is no 3D camera here. You can't turn, you can't look away from it. This is a shot specifically created to push you in a certain direction. You don't need to guess where you need to go. You start down here. You see a light in the distance. You go towards that light. Let me see if I can find another one. FF7, what's the... Is it Ancient Forest? Yes, Sleeping Forest. Sleeping Forest is what I'm thinking of. Okay, yes. This is another perfect example. You start here, and you know exactly where you need to go. This is framed in a way where there is no guesswork, nothing that you're unsure about what you need to do. This is something where the artist studied how paintings work, how perspective work, and created something genuinely gorgeous that 27 years later still stands the test of time. It has a low number of pixels, yes, but still looks gorgeous. OG Unreal was a game visually light years ahead of its time. Oh, no, don't get me wrong. Unreal is so important. Early Unreal and what was possible back then is insane. And that's something that had to happen to get to the 3D games we have today. But at the same time, it is so cool what developers were able to do by sort of circumventing those limitations in very creative ways.
And render them on powerful PCs as static images or sequences of images. All assets were created with a fixed isometric perspective. This means they are viewed diagonally from above. Despite their static nature, isometric pre-rendered graphics can create the illusion of depth and three-dimensionality through clever use of shading, lighting, and perspective techniques. Since these games didn't require rendering most or any of their assets in real time, developers could pack them with far more. By the end of 2004, it had largely become obsolete.
Right.
Which leads me to the question, why was this technique mostly abandoned by the mid-2000s?
The PS3. When did he say it was mostly abandoned? 2004? The PS3 dropped in 2006, didn't it? That sounds right. PS3 release date. 2006. Yep. You know what? Let's... Best games of 2005. Resident Evil 4 came out. Shadow of the Colossus. Battlefield 2, COD 2, Devil May Cry 3, right? Like, we were late PS2. There was so much more that could be done back then.
The whole reason this technique was used in the first place was due to hardware limitations. However, as we entered the mid-2000s, rapid advancements in new graphics hardware and rendering techniques emerged. These advancements made it possible to...
What year was Half-Life 2? Half-Life 2. 2004, right? Okay, yeah, there you go. There you go. That's all you need to know. Why did this die in 2004? Half-Life 2. Developers saw what could be done in 3D. Half-Life 2 still looks good today. Obviously it looks dated, but like, it still looks good today.
Render 3D graphics in real time that didn't look like a slideshow.
It's pretty clean, smooth-looking animation, considering, compared to the Doom type stuff.
Oh, how the times have changed. Another reason for the switch to 3D is the limitation of pre-rendered graphics in terms of interactivity and adaptability. As games evolved to become more complex, the use of pre-rendered graphics became increasingly impractical. The same applied to the development of pre-rendered graphics. If you wanted to change an asset, you couldn't simply tweak it, you had to fully re-render it. Being able to tweak a model within a couple of clicks meant developers could work a lot faster. You're inclined to think that was it for the aesthetic.
I was born in 2004, I still find Half-Life 2 still look good looking. I wonder how people reacted on release. That's a good question, actually. I know Half-Life 2, like, in retrospect, people still, like, they still look at it as one of the greatest games of all time, one of the greatest turning points in gaming. But I don't know what initial I've never looked at a 2004 review of Half-Life 2.
Right? Well, I'm happy to report it's made a bit of a comeback, especially in the indie scene. It seems I'm not the only one who still adores that pre-rendered look. Obsidian Entertainment released a game called Pillars of Eternity in 2015, developed by CRPG veterans like Josh Sawyer, Tim Kaine, and Chris Avallone. Obsidian would drop 2 more games in this graphical style with Tyranny and Pillars of Eternity Deadfire. Another relatively recent game with an amazing pre-rendered art style is Disco Elysium. In this game, they went for a more painting-like aesthetic. Next up are the Brotherhood's games. They are an indie studio that made 4 adventure games in this style, called Kane, Stasis, Beautiful Desolation, and Stasis Bone Totem. Then there are also games that keep the isometric perspective but don't use pre-rendered graphics and go for hand-drawn sprites instead.
This is like a slightly different thing, but it's still it's still built off of that classic way of doing things.
Like all of Supergiant's games.
Hades is fucking gorgeous.
Alongside all of these new releases, a lot of classic games have received remaster treatment. This allows people to enjoy these timeless games on modern machines. And man, do they look beautiful on there. It's a testament of why hardware and budget limitations can produce some incredible art.
What year was Mirror's Edge? I've never actually played that. Mirror's Edge... 2008? Fuck.
In a world where AAA studios relentlessly pursue photorealism, nothing inherently wrong with that, of course, I'm happy to...
That might be your take. I disagree. I think a lot of game dev studios don't know what it is that makes a game good. And I think the problem is that a lot of game dev studios are not run by game devs anymore. They're not run by gamers. They are run by managers. They're run by accountants, right? Like, the fall of every game studio is when the person calling the shots is not a gamer. There is never a time where that goes well. Maybe it'll be fine for 1 or 2 games, but it is always going to fail. Same thing with like any engineering company. If you don't have an engineer as your CEO, it is going to eventually fail. That is, unless you have some like infinite money glitch, like, you know, some companies run themselves into, and there's no competition. But when there's competition, like in the game space, it's gonna fail eventually. League of Legends still 2D, there's vertical movement, but it's usually tricks like offsetting the object from its actual hitbox as it jumps. Dirty Souls was made a few years later with Source, so it actually uses... I didn't know that.
The preservation of these older games and the passing of the torch to create new ones. I've compiled a list of my favorite games in this style that I think deserve your attention. Feel free to pause the video if you need to.
But as always, whenever something cool is happening in the gaming scene right now, it's usually gonna be because of indie games, right? Like, indie games is where innovation happens. Indie games is where really cool shit happens, and you know, like, people are actually running the studio, right? Indie games and AA games, right? Like your Expedition 33s, your Baldur's Gate 3. In many ways, you can consider Baldur's Gate 3 a AAA game with how big the budget is. What is that one? But, like, my point being that AAA games they're a ship that is so big. You know, it's when you have a 1,000 people, right? Like, how do you make a change in that? Who is, and this is the other thing, who is responsible if something goes wrong? If you have, you know, 300 devs working on this one part of the game and something about it is bad, who is responsible, right? Nobody knows. And when there is no accountability, when there is no clear chain of responsibility, how do you create something where people are going to be engaged? Again, going back to Expedition 33, yes, the team was quite small. They had contractors, but I think in total with the contractors, it was like 100 people that worked on the game, but it was like 30-ish like core people, right? That's a much more manageable team. When we talk about a AAA game where, again, 1,000 people worked on it, like, if something goes wrong, no one's at fault for it.